Okay, so let me know when you've pushed the play button. Have you pushed the play button? Okay.
I have pushed the play button.
Okay. So today we're going to be talking about Creaky and the Bandit. Creaky and the Bandit, as many of you know, was one of the most popular comic books of the late 2000s. This in turn engendered a spin-off radio program in the 1990s at the height of radio program popularity. This in turn engendered a spin-off in the 1980s of a comic book run called Creaky and the Bandit, the comic book run, the comic. And it was this comic that was the show based on the comic. The two stars of the show were Creaky, who was based on former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln, and the Bandit, who was based on 1980s television star Delta Burke. Little known fact. Delta Burke herself was actually based also on former U.S. President Abraham Lincoln.
All right, we're starting soon.
Okay.
All right.
Just tell me when.
All right.
We're gonna edit the clips because I want this to look professional.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm looking right at the camera. So Delta Burke, as we discussed in the comic book, was first introduced in the very first issue of the comic book, which was known as Creaky and the Bandit Return, The Return of Creaky and the Bandit, Episode 7. Obviously, with a name like that, you know it was the first episode. Delta Burke was, as you know, first introduced in the Creaky and the Bandit comic book, the first issue of the Creaky and the Bandit comic book, which was referred to as The Return of Creaky and the Bandit, Episode 7. That was the first issue. And it tells the story of Creaky and the Bandit. But it doesn't go into a lot of the details because the comic is very short. Some might say laughably short. Not laughably short like, haha, it's so short, but like, okay. Picture if you were reading a comic book and you said, hey, I'm reading this comic book, but it's not as long as I would have liked it to be. And then your friend was like, well, that's sad. I do wish it was longer than that, but it's not. It's like that. Anyway, the radio show was different than the comic book in several key aspects, one of which being that it was on the radio. Also, it was done in the 90s, unlike the comic book that was done in the 2000s. Those are the key differences. Other than that, it's very similar. Also, it didn't feature Creaky and the Bandit, but it was a bunch of other people on the radio talking about other things. I listened to it a lot, and mostly it was like, we're on the morning show, the traffic isn't that bad today going into town, now we'll listen to the popular songs of the day. Like, here's Less Than Jake, or Better Than Ezra, or Tommy Dorsey. I don't remember what year it was. But they went on like that for a while, and then sometimes they'd tell funny things like, you can save big money, or buy this car. Anyway, it was a very disjointed show, and it had a very loose series of it didn't have a plot. It didn't. So after that show, the radio show ended in the 90s, there was a cartoon that came out in the early 1980s that was sort of a sequel to the radio show featuring Creaky and the Bandit. Now, in the first episodes, it only had Creaky. He was the only one who was in it. And then the later episodes featured his friend and the Bandit. And then Creaky and the Bandit both got together and, well, they did this a lot, which was weird. But it was very popular.
Could you elaborate
with
what that
kids.
meant? So was it both their hands, like one of each, or they just both did that?
No, they both. A lot of times they just sat on a couch, not different than this, and just did this with their hands in the comics. It looked better in the medium than it does, in the video. But it was like this. It was many pages of this. I don't know. So in one episode, in one issue, in one of the shows on the comic book, they said, "Hey, Delta Burke, why are you in this comic book? This is the not the Delta Burke comic." And she said, "Oh, I thought it was the Delta Burke comic." And they said, No, that's 2 studios down over on the left by the haberdashery." And she apologized because she is very nice. It's the Abraham Lincoln in her. And so then she left. That was the second issue. The third issue, they just kind of did this again for a while. That one didn't sell as well as the first one. I guess the novelty had worn off. So then in the fourth one, they did a crossover with Electric Bunny in the World of Tomorrow.
Never heard of that. What is it?
Electric Bunny in the World of Tomorrow is the most amazing and immersive series of comics and games and
Media
in general.
School lunches.
Everywhere. They said that of every 5 children who brings a school lunchbox to school, 4 of them get beat up because no one carries lunchboxes anymore, and the 5th one forgot it at home. True story. So, anyways, the main characters of this comic book was Creaky, who was played...
What about And the Bandit?
Well, Creaky was played by a really, really tall midget, the world's tallest midget, who had this beautiful, long, flowing, gorgeous, super beautiful, long, flowing, beautiful crew cut, super tight, short hair that was like a blonde, black, redhead. He was bald. And he had a nose, like several people I know, and he had eyes that were of a color. So you could pick him out of a crowd, I mean, if it was a small crowd. That was Creaky. I'll never forget the one episode where I didn't read that comic, so I don't remember what happened, but I heard it was good. And the Bandit was his friend. His name was And the Bandit, and his job was he was Creaky's friend. I mean, it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was like Rumpelstiltskin and LeVar Burton met Funkin' Wagnalls, but instead of going bowling, they got into elevators. And when they were in the elevators, they would often bring a seagull. So, a funny story about the seagull is his name was Hiram the Seagull, and he was born in El Paso about 1987. He loved eating tacos and gefilte fish, but hated gefilte fish flavored tacos because they never had enough mayonnaise on them. Just a thing with him, I don't know. This story was brought to you by apple cider donut flavored Oreos. hey, I wish I had Oreos that suck. Well, my wish has been granted.
What do they taste like?
They taste like death mixed with crap.
So what would you rate them?
On a scale of 1 to 7, where triangle is the highest, I'd say purple.
That's a shining endorsement.
Apple cider donut Oreos. Because my taste buds have been fried, and I don't care anymore.
What?
Anyways, apple cider donuts are the perfect Oreo flavor if you are on a diet. Because unlike other foods in your house that you want to eat, these will in no way entice you. No matter how hungry you are, no matter how much you wish you had a cookie or a donut, if your house is full of these, you won't eat them. And the weight pounds will fly off like so many turkeys running across a road.
You've never had an Oreo like this.
That should be the tagline. You've never had an Oreo like this. Or you can't even eat one.
Once you start, you can never go back to this one.
Once you start, you'll wish you hadn't.